Welcome back to Voice of the Founding Fathers, and I'm your host, Dr. D. Lee Pippin. And today's topic is a continuation of Scotus, our wonderful Supreme Court of the United States, and all the recent decisions that have been going on. Now, whether I'm a member of faith or not a member of faith, the most recent decision dealt with the prayer by a public school coach on the field where the Supreme Court said that is now a First Amendment right. I don't know when our Supreme Court became a political, religious pundit, but this is not what's supposed to happen in America. The separation of church and state is very specific, and it's specific for a reason. Now, before you jump the gun about how I'm tearing down religion, let me tell you the problems when you blur those lines. And we're blurring those lines now. So a church and religious institutions have certain inalienable rights that are recognized worldwide. One is sanctuary. Sanctuary is a very important thing. Very important. You can go to sanctuary during war. You can ask for sanctuary for persecution. The church has always, and this is all churches, have always been the safety net to the world. But when church and state intermix, there's no longer a safety net. And we've already had a couple of incidences in the United States where authorities have barged into church buildings going after individuals or groups. The only time it's legal for an officer to barge into a church would be, A, if there's an active crime of murder or rape going on, and there is that cry for help, or the priest of the church invites the authorities in for a particular reason. If those two components aren't involved, then no authority should step foot inside a church as a member of that authority. They can step inside the church as a member of the church. They can step inside the church to worship, but they cannot step inside the church as an acting agent of the government. It's illegal. Well, we're blurring those lines again. And prayer is supposed to be a First Amendment right. But if you're going to go on the Bible and you're going to throw all these things out there, then also remember where Christ said, you pray humbly, not to the world for the world to see it. You're not supposed to showboat it. Faith is supposed to be in your heart between you and God, not a public spectacle. You want to give thanks to God for a game? Do it quietly on your own. Don't make it a show in the middle of a field so you get publicity to be on TV. That's not what faith is about. And that's not what God, especially in the New Testament, Christ, ever taught. It's not. So, our Supreme Court has now decided that it's going to forget the last 75 years of us keeping things strictly apart as it was supposed to be, and they're blurring the lines. And what keeps getting said over and over and over again by people to me, and I'm talking in person, even friends, when we've had this conversation, is the nonsense coming out of some of these quote-unquote experts and plenty of pundits that the Supreme Court is only there to issue over matters of the U.S. Constitution. That's their only job, is to say whether it is constitutional according to the Constitution. Wrong. Wrong, wrong. No, the Supreme Court is supposed to turn around and deal with what the law of the land, what's being recognized by the people, and apply it through with the Constitution when, and this is how Roe Vs Wade originally got involved, and this is how gay marriage got involved, and this is how the rights for prayer got involved. When there's laws that conflict between different states, and those conflicting laws cross over state lines because of people going back and forth between the states, because we're one nation. Everybody keeps bringing up, oh, let the states run themselves. We're a nation, not 50 nations, a nation. And there needs to be some national rules. So when there's a conflict between two states, whether they're beside each other or clear across the continent, that matter is supposed to be decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. Not the Court of Appeals, not the circuit courts, the U.S. Supreme Court. They are the only body that is allowed to answer those conflicts. And that has nothing to do with the Constitution. So, all of you that keeps promoting constitutional law and how abortion wasn't in the Constitution to start with, well, no, abortion wasn't an issue 200 years ago. Wasn't an issue. Never was an issue 200 years ago. People died before they gave childbirth most of the times. If there was rape or incest, they had ways of taking care of things that was done quietly among themselves, and it was handled. But it was never something that was broadly out there like everything is today on all the social media and with the newscasts and the pundits and the politicians. So all this came to the forefront and ended up in a courtroom in the 70s. And Roe versus Wade went into effect. Point blank stating what everyone should have already known. A woman should have a right over her own body. And when there is a fetus inside that body, then there is the question of when that fetus becomes an actual living human being. And we can debate it back and forth, but the general rule of thumb had been, as long as it was during the first 2 trimesters, you were allowed to do an abortion. After that, abortions were not legal anywhere in the United States. So supposedly these people talking about how, oh, we were deciding the fate of a child's life after a child was born, Mom and I would get together and talk about it and go off. And supposedly this was said by some congressman that used to be a doctor. And I'm telling you now, if that's the truth, because I have yet to hear this myself with my own ears, this is only the gossip stuff brought back to me by the people actually supporting going pro-life. If this is true, I want to know why the FBI hasn't arrested him yet and charged him with murder. Because that's murder in any book. And anybody that's doing that should be charged with murder. And if a fetus is capable of living on its own, if you've waited so long into the abortion thing, the fetus is capable of living on its own, then you remove the fetus and attempt to keep it alive and put it up for adoption at that point. But if the fetus is not capable of independent life outside of the body, I am sorry, whether it has a heartbeat or moves, and tissues will move, that's just the way it is. Things will move, they'll make twitches, etc. But if it's not capable of self-sustained life, and I'll even give you, with major medical that we have today, where we can provide it lungs and heart and everything else, if it's not capable, then it's not living. It is not a living, breathing human being. And anyone that wants to argue that differently is just being emotional. And there's lots of emotional people. Unfortunately, not too many intellectual ones. Lots of people that would rather work off of emotion and jump the guns than actually be reasonable. So our Supreme Court has been changed by politics. Politics. And this is the first and only time I will ever say I agree with AOC. First and only time you'll ever hear me agree with her on something, but I'm right. She's right. 3 of those judges should be impeached because they lied to Congress during their congressional hearings under oath when they were asked directly about Roe versus Wade. And all three of our most recent Trump-appointed judges said Roe versus Wade was law. It was established law. It was not open for interpretation. It was not open to be removed and revoked. All three of them said they would never vote to revoke it. And you can go online and watch the testimony. It's all available out there. Do it yourself. Watch it. They all said it. And yet all three of them voted to remove it as soon as they had the opportunity. And even Mississippi, who was the law that was being asked about, said their case had nothing to do with Roe versus Wade, and they were not asking for a decision regarding Roe versus Wade. So our Supreme Court turned around and decided to make a case that wasn't even a real case, so they could revoke Roe versus Wade for religious ideology, to pander to a very loud, very violent right that uses religion as a weapon against us and humanity. And the people that put these people into office and the people that allow them to continue should be ashamed of themselves. And you should leave the United States and go to another one of those countries that's acceptable in, because that's not what this country was founded on. And that is not the idea of our founding fathers. So stop using my family as your tool to justify what you're supposedly doing, because you're liars. And you deserve to be out of office. And you deserve to be impeached if you cannot remove because you're in for life. You don't deserve the jobs you have, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. And I'm not quite sure how any of you sleep at night. As always, remember, hit the subscribe button at the bottom, the notification button at the top, and hit your like button below. Look forward to hearing from you, and have a great day.